What's up, guys? Thank you for tuning in. So we're going to be talking about listing descriptions, but this is kind of just writing in general. So this could be like for your flyers, for your social posts, anything where you kind of have that like need to do some creative writing. And I know I get a lot of times, which is why I wanted to do this, that people get stuck or they get like, I don't like to talk about myself. I'm not a writer is what I hear a lot. So if you resonate with any of those sentiments, feel free to chime in whenever you see something that you have a question about or you want to talk about. But at the end and sort of in between, it'll be pretty interactive. So feel free to chime on in. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Number one is, what are we trying to do and who are we talking to? So this is an open question. What are we trying to do when we are writing a listing description? Anyone can answer.
You are trying to attract the future buyers.
True. Okay. You're attracting.
And describe the home.
You're describing. Okay, good.
I think we're trying to stand apart from the other welcome home.
Right.
Description.
Right. Okay. So you're standing.
Trying to grab attention and pique interest.
You're okay, grabbing attention. Okay. So those are all great. What we're all here to do is we are selling not only the house, and I think a lot of us realize this by now, but we're selling the lifestyle and we're selling, the features of the house, but also, basically, and I think it's CBE especially, we've definitely hammered home, and you guys pretty much get it, that it's not just, we're not just listing the features of the house. We're selling the whole house. We're selling the land. We're selling the neighborhood. We're selling the lifestyle. We're selling the potential of what this family or what this person could do in that house. So there's a lot that we're trying to communicate with the listing description that is not just 5 beds, 3.5 baths. That stuff they can find out from the MLS, from Zillow. What we're trying to do is communicate the rest of it. So the second question is, who are we talking to? And so I'll open that up. Who generally are you guys talking to when you are writing your listing descriptions?
Zillow consumers.
Zillow consumers? Okay.
It's if you're doing your CMAs and stuff, when you use the certain of the CBX stuff, you can see exactly like who's potentially going to buy that. Is it a 34-year-old, 3-family bedroom, like three kids, 3.5 kids, and
yeah.
So you kind of know who you're looking for. So are you attracting the people who want to go to the restaurants downtown, or are you looking for the perfect retirement home? So if you do like the CMA, like the CBX stuff, whatever, I can't even tell you which one it's on, but they'll tell you who you are trying to attract, but obviously the future buyer. And that's based upon, if you do the research on what CBE gives us. It will,
So you do, Sarah goes very specific and you use CBX and you like really talk to that person. Oh my goodness, Macho's here. Yay. So Sarah goes super specific and she narrows in on that exact person that she thinks is going to most likely buy this property, and then talks to that person. And Lori, I'm guessing from what you said that when you say Zillow consumers, you're just casting a net, and it's like, here's the gist of the house. If you want it, come get it. That type of thing. You're not like putting out any particular person when you're writing.
We're trying to get the biggest bang for the verbiage that we put in there. Yeah.
Okay. Does anyone else have a different approach? Alrighty. So those are the two main approaches that we have, I guess, that we're working with. And, one's not better than the other, and it's going to depend on every property. So, alrighty. So these are just some cardinal sins that I gathered, and I'm sure you all have seen some examples of these, but our number one favorite that we love to hate is capitalizing every word. Let's stop doing that. It's not actually helpful for anyone. It's not helpful for the search engines. It actually makes your listings look like spam, and so it kind of flags them. It's also not great to read. I don't know if you've ever tried to read something in all caps, but it sounds a lot like shouting in my mind, and nobody particularly enjoys that. So you don't need to do that. There's no benefit. It's sort of an old-timey custom that I guess has really hung on for some reason, but I've seen people do the entire thing capitalized, which looks crazy, but then I've also seen people, they'll stick like a couple words in every so often that are capitalized, which also doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. So if you're doing that, I know it's probably just a habit from this is what you've done for a long time. But you may want to break it just because it doesn't actually help. And it doesn't, especially doesn't help with search engines. So, think about that. Number 2 is doing the first capital, and then the rest lowercase for every single word, as if you were like writing a title or something. That doesn't help either. I'm not exactly sure why people started doing that, but the main thing it does is piss me off, because I then have to go in when I'm trying to write a blog about your property and I have to uncapitalize every freaking word. So just don't do that. You can just write normal. It's totally acceptable to write normal, and everyone will appreciate it. And then they won't read it in their head in a weird voice, which is distracting. So yeah. And then number 3 is abbreviating things. You really don't have to do that. We have 4,000 characters to work with now. You can totally abbreviate things if you're like super, I think there used to be really, really strict limits on like Zillow or things like that. But there's like almost no need to do that anymore. And I find that people still do it, which is kind of, I don't think anyone's going to knock you for it, but it's just not necessary and it looks kind of weird. So go ahead and write everything out that you want to write out. And then if you absolutely have to, like stainless steel, you could totally abbreviate as SS if you have to do that. But, there's no reason to abbreviate yard or large or, any of those like common ones that we see all the time. And the last one, of course, spell check. Shouldn't have to say this, but this is your job. So punctuation mistakes, bad grammar, spelling things wrong, having words repeated, obviously that someone did not proofread, that type of thing. It's inexcusable. Like, this is your entire job and you are an adult that fully went through school. So it doesn't cut it anymore. You know what I mean? So yeah, just go ahead and spell check that. Bad boy, if you wouldn't mind, because otherwise I'll just go crazy all by myself. Let's look at this one. So this is kind of fun. I chose this one because it is beautiful, and also it's fully out of our service area. So it's nobody's listing that we know, but it is very, very beautiful. And in a couple words, if we're looking at this bad boy, how would we describe this house, class? Here's another picture of the inside.
A mansion.
Mansion, yes.
Yeah.
It is currently for sale. It's 20.9 million. Do we have any other descriptors of this amazing house?
Elegant.
Elegant, yeah.
Out of my price range.
It's a little out of everyone's price range, which is why it's kind of fun. That's why I chose like a super crazy one, because I think that if I got a $20.9 million listing, I would write a novel. Like, I would just go absolutely nuts on it. I could write about that. Look at that library. Amazing library. Spiral staircase. Like, double library. Insane. You could write a novel about it. There's the freaking curved arched staircase, the amazing fireplace. Look at the floor. There's so much to say. What'd you say, Sarah?
I'm pretty sure this is where Beauty and the Beast was filmed.
Exactly. Yeah. This is like, if you are trying to create a creative writing prompt, this is like, you're cheating by using this one almost. But so yeah, this is an example of, there's almost too much to describe, which luckily we don't have that happen very often. But let's look at what the actual listing description was. For the buyer seeking utmost in luxury, privacy, and a spectacular setting, your own private resort. Grand main residence with finest quality construction, abbreviated, no detail overlooked, unclear what those details might be because they're not mentioned, 3,500 bottle wine cellar and wine tasting room. Typically when you say wine cellar, you can just go ahead and say tasting room because you're not tasting anything else besides wine in there, but you know, do you. They're not concerned about repeating words though, because it's home theater, elevator 1 sentence, pool 1 sentence, carriage house with abbreviated additional 6-bay garage and living quarters, 2 ponds 1 sentence, wildlife 1 sentence, approximately 2,000 acres and 17 tax parcels, boring. This is so disrespectful. I would feel absolutely mortified if I did this to my sellers. Let's look at that freaking house again. It is insane. I mean, it's like, oh no, it's like a wonderland of things to write about. And you went ahead with like wildlife, 2 ponds. I don't know, man. It's just, it's a lot. So this is kind of what we're competing with, but there's almost no standard, which is unfortunate in the real estate industry, is that this is acceptable, but we have to hold ourselves to a higher standard and be much better than this. And I've seen a lot of times, I don't know if people admit it, but they put in a little bit less effort if it's not as expensive. I feel like you should almost put in the maximum amount of effort that you can, no matter how much it costs, because every time that you put anything out, your name is associated with that listing. So at any time, anyone's going to go and look up your previous listings and go, wow, she really phoned it in. That one, you know, that $200,000 house out in wherever, yeah, maybe it's not the most impressive and maybe it's on the lower end of somebody's price range, but it mattered a lot to those sellers. So, you know, I would say if you have the time and the opportunity, which all of you do, and the talent, which all of you do, I would put in a good amount of care and effort into every time you put a listing out into the world, just because it exists forever and then everyone can go look it up again. And it shows that you give a crap about your job, which is, you know,
That's
always want to
important.
do that. Hi, new people joining. Looks like Abby showed up. Anita, yay, hi.
Sorry I was a little late. I had a phone call.
No worries. We're still chit-chatting and we're gonna, hopefully this is recording, so you'll be able to watch
And
it.
we just looked at one of your listings and talked about how bad it was.
Yeah, we chose especially one of yours. Yeah.
Yeah.
So here's where I want to open up to you guys. What is your process? How do you start writing your listing descriptions?
I have a funny story on how I do it, and Sarah kind of helped me with that. Because I had a little bit of trouble, like starting out in like the first couple. And when we were younger,
Sorry.
my dad like grounded us. We could write stories like on pieces of paper, and we would earn like Xbox time back.
Ooh, okay,
We were
nice.
little. So of course, when we got grounded, you can't do anything. So we would just write a bunch of stories to get our time back.
Yeah.
And I was telling Sarah that, and she's, oh, we'll just use that for when you're writing your listing descriptions. I was like, that's a really good idea. So that's how I do it now.
And so when you start, what do you start? And this is for everyone. What do you start? Like, what's your first step? Do you just think about the house and then write down whatever comes to mind, or you gather all the info and then like try and format it? What's everyone's process?
Personally, for me, the first thing I do is think about the things I like the most about the house. Like, what highlights for me? Like,
cool. Was
that kitchen amazing? Was it the sunroom? Was it the location? Am I downtown? And then I kind of start there as thinking like that's the hit home, like that's a home runner.
Yeah.
And then I tell the story of the home on the back end. And then I pretty much word vomit.
Okay.
And then realize that I need to go online and figure out other words for, you know, roomy or storage or ample, like, and so then I use synonyms and I try to plug and chug, and then I reword things and put my sentences in different areas and like create a book. But typically it's word vomit, and I start with whatever I feel is my main I fell in love with the home because of, or my clients fell in love with the home because of.
Yeah. That's a good strategy. So you get everything down and then go back and edit.
Yeah, because I'm one of those people who has a really bad time with putting the capital letters in front of random things.
Don't
I'm
do
one of
it,
them.
Sarah.
I am. I don't know why. I'm
doing
horrible
it.
about it, and I can't spell anything. So I
Well,
have to have other people proofread my.
we have
my
spell
list.
check for a reason.
Yeah, but
PTO for
if
that
you
spell
spell
check.
things right, but it's still wrong,
Yeah.
you can't figure it out. I'm one of
That
those
is-
people.
That is a good strategy too. You can always work your hardest and then just send it to someone else and say, does this look normal? But yeah, no, I love that strategy of just letting everything come out, because I think a lot of people get like, this doesn't sound right, and they don't want to put anything down on the paper. And so I love that strategy of just putting it all out and then going back later and reworking things. And looking up synonyms. I do that all the time. That's like a classic. Love that one. Anybody else got a strategy?
I sort of just put it out there as if I was going to describe it to my best friend, the house itself. And then once I get it there, and then I kind of like she does, kind of rework the order or the things that we're really trying to pull out up front, so because they stop reading after a couple sentences. But I can't think about it too much. I've got to get something down, and then I can start working it backwards a little bit.
Yeah, that's an important thing to note, is that you sort of have to think like a reporter a little bit. What's the headline here? And you know, after we've looked at so many houses, there aren't that many interesting things about all these houses, unless you have that $21 million place. There isn't really like a whole bunch of amazing things to talk about. So it is kind of easy to center in on that one, like, it's got a great kitchen, you know what I mean? So love that. I like that strategy. Let's go to our first challenge. And so this is super, super easy. You can do it on your phone or your piece of paper, but I just want you to write one sentence right now. And Sarah, you can just brainstorm it in your head if you're doing chopping or whatever. But I want you to describe in as much detail as you can the last picture you took on your phone.
Oh, Lord.
So the last like relevant picture, it doesn't have to be like a screenshot of a meme or whatever, but the last picture you took on your phone, and I'll give you a couple minutes to get those down. Just one sentence. It doesn't have to be, a book. But I want to feel like I'm transported into the picture, like I'm there, I'm in it, and this is mine that I had on my phone. It also doesn't have to be like, I think a lot of people feel like, especially when they're put on the spot, that it's like, it needs to be like Shakespearean English. Like, it doesn't have to be, anything amazing. But just the most specific detail you can go into. All right. Can I hear it and then I'll imagine it?
Sure.
Or describe it to me first, what the picture actually is.
So it's my dog laying on my laptop on the couch.
Okay.
Okay, so I have the most beautiful blonde and brown German Shepherd in the world is laying on my laptop on the couch and begging me with her puppy dog eyes not to start working.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, that's awesome.
Can I show you the picture?
Yeah. Can you share your screen or not?
Oh,
Wait.
Put it up in front of the camera.
Yeah, but German Shepherd. Oh, cute.
Wait, are you holding it up?
Oh, you didn't see it?
No. Oh, I love it. Yeah, that's beautiful. I love that.
Thanks.
So you went a little bit into like his personality and like what he's thinking.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Anyone else have one that they want to share? We don't have to do all of them, but if anyone has one that they love, they're ready to share. It's only one sentence, so you don't have to get too poetic with it, but
You want to hear mine?
yeah.
All right, so mine, I just did the one sentence. It's a t-shirt to show strength and support of small businesses supporting small businesses.
Good. Nice.
So I had just bought this. It's let me see, I don't know how to get it in the middle.
Oh,
So it just says,
cool.
so it's a t-shirt I just bought. It says better of Fred.
Turn
And
this
we'll be better,
down
Fred.
volume down.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, that's
It's right
awesome.
over here, but I can't get this.
Let me make the show.
I'm gonna mute Dan really quick. I think he's the one talking. Cool. I mean, so you kept it very concise and very
Yeah.
like to the point, but it's what it covers the question of why should I care about this, which is good. Do we have anyone else? Lori?
I'm sorry, I had people knocking on my door. My dogs were going crazy, so I missed some of them.
Oh no, it's okay. We only did 2.
Oh, okay. So the picture that I have, oddly enough, my sister's in Florida. She's got cancer, and so I was chatting with her late last night. She's completely turned her days and her nights around because her husband's home all day.
Yeah.
So I sent her a picture of me last night. I was still working really late, and I had like 38,000 tabs open, and I had just taken my stress gummies, and she said, "What are they?" So I took a picture of both. So she's got a picture of all my tabs and my stress gummies.
Nice.
And my quick sentence says, "A moment in time during our shared captivity with too many tabs open and my stress gummies to get me through."
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. Oh, let me see.
I don't know if you can see it.
Oh, nice. Yeah. No, that's good to show the.
We're all trying not to kill our husbands, so
Yeah.
I take stress gummies and she stays up all night and sleeps all day.
Hey, there you go. Well, and I like that you referenced the situation and you set the stage a little bit.
Yep.
That's part of it. Creative writing, if you want to write better, you have to read better. So a lot of creative writing is mimicking, accidentally, but how things that you've read. So I can tell that you've read, some books or some stories that they set up the stage where, they set the scene a little bit. So that's awesome. And that's actually really helpful in listing descriptions too, just because you're painting a picture. And so it helps to give more context and a little bit more info. Does anyone else have a sentence they want to share before we move on? Latana, did you do a sentence? You didn't do a sentence? Oh, okay.
I just got in. I kept clicking the tab from go to meeting from
So you
signing
were
up.
late and you didn't do a sentence? Jeez.
Yes, that's right. That's
Okay.
exactly right.
That's
And I'm
fine.
only here because I hate writing.
Hey, we got another one. But do you like reading? I know you like reading.
I do.
So there you go. It's two sides of the same coin. I think a lot of people hate writing because they don't think they have anything to say and they don't want to put something down and it not be what they like to read. And you can tell me if I'm off base with that one, but it's the same idea. If you read better, you write better. And if you mimic kind of the style that you like in other people's listings, or if you read a lot of like interior design blogs, you'll find yourself using that terminology by accident. And it kind of helps you elevate your listing descriptions. Before we leave, does anyone else have any sentences that they want to share? Was that a hand raise, Todd, or no? That was a face scratch? Okay.
You're muted.
Oh. All right, so we will move on.
I think the hand raised down at the bottom.
I got one.
Oh, here we go. All right, what's he got? What is, the empty
wow.
shelf.
Choices unlimited.
What's the sentence?
That was the toilet paper at one time
Uh-huh.
in Safeway.
Oh my gosh.
So anyway, imagine said choices unlimited.
Not
Choices
unlimited, limited.
limited. There you go.
Very brief. Brevity is the soul of wit. I like that one. Very brief, very concise, to the point. Cool. So here's mine. Can you guys still see my screen?
Mhm.
Okay. So I did a little bit of what I think most people's process is, kind of the same idea as Sarah's. The first is the word vomit. You get everything down on the paper, and it's just the most basic description of what comes to mind first. And then your second revision is you add in a little more details, you explain why this is important, why should anyone care? And then your third revision is you're painting the picture, you're adding in the nice words, you're putting yourself in their shoes. And even like in Abby's example, you're taking yourself into the mind of the other party. So that's where you can get really creative, is your second or third revision after you've gone through and reworked it. So number one, I have the plain old, my dog is sitting in the sun next to the rowing machine. Better is my dog Bojangles having a nice nap in the sun, blissfully snuggled in next to his toys in the rowing machine. And then the best, Bojangles' eyes sleepily blink open, and hazy rays of sunlight glint off his sleek black coat as he reluctantly wakes from another luxurious mid-afternoon nap amidst his beloved toys. So you don't have to get as crazy with it as I do, but it's a fun exercise if you want to try that someday. If you want to just give yourself a challenge and find a random house or find a picture that you've recently taken and try and challenge yourself to describe it in as much detail as possible. And then you can go through the process of the good, better, best system of, here's where I started. And then, all right, second revision, I'm going to add in some more details. I'm going to add in some color. And then last, I'm going to go through and really make this vivid. I'm going to make it come off the page, that type of writing. So let's go to the next. The way that I translate this into listing description writing is, number one, you're going to gather all your facts. And this includes not just 5-bed, 5-bath, all that boring stuff, because really we can find that info elsewhere. This includes the neighborhood, the lifestyle, the CBX info. So like the buyer locator info of who is going to live in this house most likely. And you don't have to limit yourself obviously to that type of person, but if we have the data that shows that that's the person that's most likely to buy, you may as well talk to them. Number two, I try to imagine in like excruciatingly specific detail actually living in that house. So you're going to describe waking up there, or you're going to, whatever the best feature of the house is. It's the same idea of, not every house has something amazing. So put yourself in that movie theater room. If that's the cool thing about the house, go for it. If it's a gourmet kitchen, that's where you're going to start your description. You're going to describe yourself cooking a great meal for friends. You're going to, this sort of bleeds into my next little number there, is remember who you're talking to. So you're going to adjust your tone to match the lifestyle that you're selling. Is this beachfront, or is this going to be an active family with a lot of water sports going on? Or is this going to be somebody's country estate that they want, to retire and spread out and have some horses, So you can adjust your tone to match what you're selling, the lifestyle that you're selling. And imagine how that house or the potential of that house in general is going to help these people, whoever may end up buying it, live their best life. So, we have to go beyond listing things. We're not simply listing the features. I know a lot of listing descriptions have the same stuff that is in the MLS, like in the info part, in the listing description. You almost don't need to list how many bedrooms and bathrooms there are in there, or make a huge deal about how it has, X shed in the backyard, that type of thing. It's in the info box. They know that. If you use the whole listing description to just tell them what they already know, again, it's going to be boring. So the listing description is your chance to show all those features off in a flattering way and mention them in the context of actually living in the house. And how is that shed going to help you, store all your toys, because this is a house with a big backyard. So you're going to have a lot of cool things to do back there, and that kind of stuff. So does that make sense? Does anyone have any real life experiences with doing any of those that they've used successfully when they're writing?
What if it's a really bad house?
Hey, those happen. Yeah.
Yeah.
So here's my thinking on it. There's always a way to say something. There's always a way to reframe something negative into a positive. There's a reason that somebody bought that house in the first place, and there's a reason that somebody will buy it eventually. So you have to think about, there's only so much lipstick on a pig you can really do. And I certainly have done that for some of the people's subscriptions, but there's always a way to phrase things. This is a place for a designer. This is a place that's a blank canvas. So when you come in and you make it your own, this is a place that you're going to be able to fully do anything you want to and take advantage of the bones and the fact that it's in this super prime location and it's riverfront and you're going to have these amazing views. If there's nothing good to say about the house, you sort of have to not invent them, but you have to reframe what's negative about it in a way that this is an opportunity. You know what I mean? It is an opportunity. So someone's going to take that and they're going to make something amazing out of it. And they're probably going to sell it for a lot more. So your job is to kind of uncover the possibilities for those people. And hopefully that helps. I don't know if that answered your question, but, and a lot of times it's not just that the houses are bad, they're boring. They're the same house every single time. It's the same exact house because they were all built exactly the same. So that's kind of the fun of our job. I like to frame it that way. It's a challenge. It's a creative writing challenge. So you'll have to look at things like the neighborhood or the amenities or things like, the experience of actually living in that house. So waking up and seeing the beautiful birds and the tree nearby, that type of stuff, and emphasize that if the house is really unremarkable. So that's kind of what.
I've got a question that you might be able to speak to. I know you either bought or are buying a condo downtown. I'm getting ready to list one down there. When you were looking, you're basically selling downtown. You're not selling the little tiny condo that needs work, right? You're selling the location and all the things to do and the.
Yes.
Okay.
And I'd say the same for like downtown Fredericksburg too. It almost doesn't matter what the interior looks like.
That's kind of how it sounded.
It doesn't matter. They'll live in a falling down, piece of cardboard if it's close by, and I can walk to my coffee shops and I can go to the riverfront, So it depends on your area for sure. But if and that's another good tip actually, is to look at what other people are saying about their listings. So if you have the time, go in and look at what other houses have sold nearby and see what they're saying, because obviously
that's exactly what I did.
Obviously it worked. Somebody bought it because they read something that they liked. And if it looks like mostly they're just talking about how this neighborhood is so amazing or this location is so close to the highway or X, Y, and Z, use what works. And I think there's no use like reinventing the wheel. You don't have to go overboard to like, well, they didn't do a very good job talking about the interior, so I'm going to do it, So if you have that idea of like, I don't really know what to say about this particular thing, find a similar listing that's sold before, and then go through and edit and chop up what someone else might have written and see if you can't get some ideas from that. Yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah.
What do we think about changing the description if it's sitting on the market for a little bit?
Love it. It depends on how long you're talking about, obviously, but if it's been on there for like 3 months, if you change it even a little bit, Google views that as an update to the listing. So it will think that it will give it, I don't know how really the search engines work, how they do things, but basically it gives it a little boost because it's like something happened with this page. So it's a little bit different. And you can do that with like the pictures too. If you just like switch out, ooh, now it has a new first picture, people will get excited about that. But yeah, I mean, why not? There's no harm in doing that.
Okay.
It didn't.
Also, one of my pet peeves is seeing something that's been sitting on the market for like 6 months and it's like, don't wait, this won't last long.
Yeah. Especially if you do that. That is actually super annoying. I almost
like you should put something in your calendar so that after 2 weeks it's gone.
Yeah, I feel like it's almost a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you put like won't last and then in your description, it's going to be there for 6 months. Like, so yes, if you have anything weird like that, or like if you put in your description, like open house this Tuesday, and it's like 4 weeks later, change that, obviously. Yes, good point.
Because I'm thinking now I have 2 listings. I love one on my downtown listing, but my other one, the more we've talked, and I took your other one about Home Spotter.
Yeah.
And I think it's too long, and I'm thinking about revamping it. But it's only been, it might be going on 2 months. Is it too soon?
That's fine. Yeah, that's fine. There's the only thing I would say is that I'm talking about like changing it every 24 hours. So as long as it's like it's been on there for 2 weeks and you just want to switch it up, don't worry about it. That's totally fine. Yeah. All right. So we're gonna do some real life practice. This is another 1-sentence challenge. This is a real house. This is Robin Marine's listing, and I'll give you a chance to soak in this beautiful house. I chose it because it's in kind of the middle of everyone's price range, and it's also pretty typical of what we see. A lot of houses look like this. So, but it's a nice one. So that's kind of fun. Here's some more pictures of the inside. I can go back to the other one if you want, but I want your best one sentence. What's your headline about this house? For like the first thing you'd put in your listing description.
I think it's hard when it's a house you know.
Oh, it's a house you know?
No, a house you don't know.
Oh, yeah.
Harder to start.
Yeah, so what happens a lot is I have to write blogs about some of you guys' houses, and I have never been in there, so I kind of have to like play imagination station to feel like I am in there. Okay, so that's the front. Anybody needs that anymore? I'm gonna go to the next one so you guys can see the interior and the backyard. Backyard's pretty awesome. Actually, it's funny. I was looking through listings to try and find one for this class to use, and you guys all actually have really good listing descriptions. I didn't find any to make fun of, so good job.
You can make fun of mine. I got a new one.
I didn't see it. No, I'm sure it's totally fine. Anybody have one?
I'll give it a try.
Okay.
I wrote, come home to your new exquisite forever home, boasting 2-car garage, lots of sunlight, wood floors, and a fun backyard inviting you in.
Love it. So what gave you the forever home vibe?
Just like the style of the home,
Okay.
the look of it. Like it just invites you, and it feels like a family home, and you can't say family home, so you're forever home because you're inviting your family to be here forever.
Yeah, cool. And then I like that you mentioned some of the features, but in a way that made sense. One of my pet peeves is people just listing things. It's like stainless steel, gourmet kitchen, blah, blah, blah. It's like, well, yeah, but how is that going to help me live? Like, tell me how I can enjoy these things so that I can envision it. I like that you did that. So does anyone have any other sentences? Or just one sentence? I feel like Lori's writing. I'm seeing a lot of like.
I am, but I'm scratching out everything I wrote.
Oh, that's okay. What's your like rough draft?
Oh, it's only a half a sentence. Hold on.
Okay. Latana, any ideas?
I have one sentence, and then my husband interrupted me, so.
Oh, geez.
So I don't have much. Spacious colonial, perfect for entertaining those neighborhood cookouts.
Love it. Perfect.
Thank you.
You're doing great. That was awesome.
I hate writing.
You used keywords. So a lot of people like searching for things like colonial or traditional or well, not stainless steel, but they're looking for keywords that they're searching for. So like quartz, or the more specific you can be about features, the better. And if you can make it sound natural, that's the gold standard. So I like that a lot. And I like that you mentioned the kind of lifestyle-y stuff. So like the cookouts, it's a lot about like, you're going to have people over. This is sort of a party, not a party house, but like a place where you can have, festivities, that type of thing. Because look at the backyard. Look at the barbecue pit. It's amazing.
I'll give you my rough draft.
Cool.
There's something for everyone in this spacious colonial. Large backyard for playing catch. Great library for the quiet ones. Open kitchen to gather everyone together.
Awesome. Yeah, good. And I heard spacious, and I think almost all of yours. It's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. But I would challenge you, if you know that that's like your thing that you love to say, I would challenge you to go do like a synonym. Just look up some other ones just so that you have the option. Because I know a lot of times it's like, well, I just reach for the one that I know.
Well, you know why that one got it all is I think it's that extra spot over the garage. That's not usually, that's usually empty space.
Yeah.
Makes it look bigger.
It is a huge house, I'll say that, the library. And I like you mentioned the library. The library was kind of my thing that I took away from this, is like my cool feature that I would have focused on. But I love that description. That's really good. Does anyone have any other ones that they want to share?
I have one. It's just not very good.
Oh, yes.
Wouldn't you love to have a yard that feels like a park with lush green grass and beautiful mature trees?
Love that. That's beautiful. Yeah. And I like that you're putting yourself in their position. So the experience of actually living there is going to be this lush green, someone that wants this house is looking for that type of atmosphere. They love the forest, they love the woods, but they want it to be their own personal private park type thing. So I love that. That's great. Why did you think that was bad?
I don't know. I just don't like it. Maybe
Okay.
because it only concentrated on the outside. It seems like I should include everything.
That's okay. So I think sometimes people get like, they want their first sentence to like hit, like play the hits type thing, like hit everything that's really great about the house. You don't have to do that. I choose just like one or two awesome things that I really, really like. But again, I would say like everyone's first draft sucks. So if you think it's bad, that's normal. And it's usually because you have a little better idea just lurking in the background, that if you had some space to think about it, you'll be able to get that out there. But I thought that was great. So
Thanks.
good job. All right, so we'll move on to the next one. We heard our examples. I want to hear kind of the behind the scenes. What happened when you tried to come up with these sentences? Like, what was the first thought that was either a roadblock, or what was something that came really naturally to you that you weren't expecting? Do you have like common ones that always happen where you're like, I don't know the word for this, or like,
I always feel like I want to put too much in that first sentence to try to hit the points in case you lose them, and then it gets lengthy.
Right. And I think the danger in that, because I totally hear you that you want to like get all the information out before they get distracted. I think the danger in that is that halfway through they'll realize that it's a list, and they'll go, meh, all right. And instead of, you want to make that first sentence so vivid and so like transporting them into the house, they feel like, oh my God, I'm waking up and looking out the window at this beautiful tree in the front yard. When they feel like they're sucked into the story, they'll stay for the rest. You don't have to like try so hard to like make it a tweet or whatever.
I've got a short attention span, so I think that way.
You're not alone. That's pretty much everyone. Especially now, I think a lot of people do not stick around to read the whole thing. But
okay.
Did anyone else have any roadblocks that happened, or things that they weren't expecting to be easy but actually were?
Me, I just feel like that one felt too easy because it was such a great home. Like if you had more of a clunker, to be able to say anything positive is going to be a lot more difficult. But that one's easy to just say, like, it's a majestic home and things are what they are. Like no one really feels like they're in love with their first sentence. At least I know I don't. Yeah. But it's easier to like word vomit it on paper and then figure it out. But like if it's one of those like really crappy clunker homes that you're like, okay, well, I had one that literally the whole house, I was like, oh, they have dark colors. It's all dated. Like if I'm looking through pictures, I'd be like, oh, dang, how do I make this sound the best? Yeah. And it took me a long time. Like I had to sit down with the clients and just say, why did you fall in love with this home? Yeah. And when I talked to them, I realized it was all the backyard. So that's what I did. The entire description, I just talked about the backyard because that's what made them love it. So I'm hoping there's another buyer out there. Yeah. And so that's one of the things I do in my listing presentations is I sit down and one of the things I ask is like, what do you love about this home? Yeah. What do you hate about this home? So I know to kind of, if it's a big deal, like some people are like, oh, I just don't like the threshold there because it's ugly and tacky. And I'm like, yeah, you should change it. But to hear what they have to say helps you write your description.
They know it better than anyone. They had to live in it. So, even if it looks horrible and they didn't enjoy it, they had to live in it and they know, at least what they liked the most about actually living there. You also have to keep in mind especially when you're looking at these like, oh, they're just not great houses. It's all a spectrum, right? So we see the awesome $21 million houses and we see the terrible ones. And so I think because we see the spectrum of how great a house can be, we sort of forget that people are looking in their price range. So it looks terrible to you, but maybe that's like not the worst of all the ones that they saw today. You know what I mean? So that's another thing to keep in mind too, is that you never want to be too down on a house. I think a lot of people put like fixer or needs work or, you know, stuff like that in the description. People know the photos are obvious. I know that it needs work, but I think if you try and just reframe things in a way that's, oh, do I have to go?
Investor's dream home.
Okay. Yeah, right. That if you reframe it in a way that makes them feel positive about this huge purchase that they're about to make, which they are, it's a huge deal for every single person. I'm going to move because apparently my husband has a call going on. So we're going to go into the bedroom, guys. What's up?
Hey, Abby, look at our walls. They're exactly the same color.
Very nice choice.
It looks like you guys are in the same house.
Doesn't it?
Are you just punking me?
That's pretty funny.
All right. So
Now yours too.
yay. So we are in the bedroom now. I see here, Stephanie says, I feel like I always use the same descriptive words. That's super common. A lot of people, because you don't flex your creative muscle all the time, you just use what's readily available to you. And that's, you know, the words that you always reach for. I would say if you know you have like some pet words that you always use, just go into a synonym. You can look up, just Google synonyms of that word, or you can Google real estate words, and there's a whole bunch of lists out there that have like descriptive words and just ways to phrase things that are a little different than maybe you're used to. And I would say don't get like scared when you see 100 words that you could possibly be using. Just choose like a couple that you feel comfortable using and then start like sprinkling them in, and that usually feels a little more natural if that's not like the way that you talk normally. Yeah.
Can I tell a fun story?
Oh yeah.
So I do the synonym thing because I know I'm horrible about using the same words over and over again. I don't have a huge vocabulary, so I always want to come up with a better one.
Yeah.
I did my first video tour of a house that I have, and I did it, and I was like, all right, nailed it. And so I left thinking, you know, I'm just gonna like piece it together and use iMovie, everything's good. I used the word ample in that video in probably every room, if not 2 to 3 times. So I left feeling so like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I just did that.
Yeah.
And so it's a word I'm never going to use again. So Steph, dude, do a video tour of a home, see what word you use a lot, and you'll never want to use it again, because that's exactly what I did. Ample is my word, apparently.
Yeah.
So I'm shunning myself from that word for the rest of my life in any like listing that I do.
That's that's such a good idea. I think just even like reading your own listing description out loud, you'll notice like, why did I say it like that? So yeah, that's a great example. I know ample's a bad one for some people. Spacious, luxurious is a great one. Yeah, everyone has their little pet words that they like. All right, so here's kind of the main roadblocks that I come across from other people. I'm gonna go down here. Ooh, is this fun? Okay, look, you can see out the window. Hey, so we kind of talked about vocab. Roadblock number 2 is boring houses. We kind of talked about that a little bit, and in terms of just like, you can't find anything likable about it. You can't find anything good about it, or it's like actively just a bad looking house, or the rooms inside are not great. Another way I look at those, aside from just reframing things, is you could describe the potential or the possibilities for this listing. So I look at like the potential of what are the opportunities that someone moving in, someone buying this could make. It doesn't have to be there already. You can just show people kind of what they could do with the space, and that sometimes is helpful.
One of the things I like to do is ask, so you ask what their favorite, or, why they bought the house, but I also ask for like, what's a favorite memory that you have in this house? So I can use that to try to tell the story.
Oh yeah. The people that live there are your best resource. And then we kind of mentioned if you're super, super stuck, you can look at like other current listings, but I would also say use the MLS's ability to go back in time and look at what other people have written about this house in the past. Presumably it's been listed before. If it hasn't, you can go to a house down the street, and that one's probably been listed before. there are far and few between houses that have no equal in this area. So if you if you can find something similar enough, you can go and look at their historical listings and see kind of like how did they describe it. And obviously don't copy it, but you can elaborate and embellish on what they've sort of started. And then if you feel like you have nothing else to do, which we all don't because it's quarantine, if you don't have any listings, you can challenge yourself and pick a random listing. Pick your ideal listing that you would love to have and write its description or write a first sentence for it. And that'll help you kind of practice, flex your muscles a little bit to get used to doing that. Yeah. Here are some creative writing exercises. If you, I'll send the slides out, but these are just some things that you can do in your free time if you feel like practicing your craft or whatever. And if you feel, especially I would challenge people that feel like they hate writing or that they're not good writers, this is how it happens. This is how you get better. So, and I think you'll be surprised at what you have to say. I think there's definitely a certain amount of like, I'm not a good writer because I haven't done it before. So I think if you just sort of start and then start editing and start pushing it all together, you'll be surprised at what you can create. So yeah, describe your day from start to finish. That's a good one. You can look at your old listing descriptions. Those are good. And then edit those. And maybe like even like your first ever listing description and see how your style has changed. That would be a fun one. The all five senses one, you can just try to describe the room or the home using all five of your senses. So what does the house feel like? What is, what textures are you feeling? What are you smelling? Is it the beautiful flowers outside? What does it sound like when you're there? All the things that make the image kind of come alive off of the page. Oh, there's my favorite, rewrite someone else's listing description in the most creative way you can. I'm doing this all the time because I got to write blogs about them. And then the old classic, you have to read like you want to write. So if you are consuming a lot of media about houses and about architecture and interior design, you're going to start talking like that in your mind and writing like that because that's just how human brains work. Yeah, let's go to the next one. So these are just best practices. We sort of mentioned all of these. Keeping it concise. I think that sometimes people want to do a better job. They just put more into it and it comes across really obvious that that's what you're doing. It's sort of like, adding in phrases when you're trying to reach a word count type thing for class. You don't have to do repeating yourself or adding in extra stuff that doesn't really make any sense. Keeping it very concise and to the point is always going to be helpful. Oh, are you saying something? Hello? No? Okay.
My friend, he did an English writing class, and he always tells me, keep the best, reserve the rest.
Yeah.
And it's basically one of those things I try to remember because I know myself, I like to and the clouds were fluffy that day and it was wonderful. And you do want to paint a picture, but really that has nothing to do with the house.
Yeah.
So it's more like funneling it down to like making sure that you're just keeping it concise on just one specific topic, like the house, and not, or you're just keeping on the neighborhood. But he always says when he reads my stuff, he's like, sometimes you went around the block when you didn't need to. So it's a little too much, and that's when you lose your audience. And I know I'm horrible about it. So that's why, like I said, he's a great second reader for me. That's one of the things I'm not always the best at is when I'm starting, I'm like, oh, and the bullfrogs and the butterflies were there one day and they love it. You should go down the road. There's cats on the roof and it's fun. Yeah. No one really needs to.
Neighborhood. You said that's Mike that was reading yours?
Steve, no, my boyfriend, he does it. Mike, he always reads them and then he says, so what picture are you painting to make sure I'm critiquing you based upon the picture you're painting? Like Mike's really good about making sure that he's not trying to change my picture. He's just trying to make sure I'm funneling in the right direction because I am bad about like word vomiting here, word vomiting there. And then when I do still try to funnel it down, I still may not be as great. So depending on who's reading it, whatever I get back. But
yeah. No, it's always helpful to have a second pair of eyes. And to have them look at it, and then you take some time maybe and take some space, and then if you read it when you come back to it the next day, you're like, I'm in a different headspace than I was when I was writing this, and this doesn't make any more sense, you know? So that's kind of, if you have the time to, you know, you're not desperately trying to get it into the MLS or whatever, to take some time away and then come back to it.
Does anybody email it to their clients before going live?
Lori? Okay. I can't see anyone
You're
else.
muted.
I'll say click.
Especially if they have a lot of updates. I want to make sure, number one, I didn't miss anything important. Number two, I didn't imagine the house I was in last weekend added something that wasn't true.
Right.
So
Right.
I always have them read it before it goes live.
Okay.
I like to do that too, because then they may say, hey, you know, you didn't mention anything that we're like 15 minutes from I-95. And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, I didn't even think about that. Like, it's
Yeah.
commuter green, you know? And I was only so focused on that. My hardest one recently has been my downtown listing, just because it's out of my caliber. I've never done a downtown listing until now. And, you know, what they wanted to paint versus what I thought should be painted was two different things. And like, we came up with an idea together, which is great.
Yeah.
But it was more of a, I did the broad strokes and they did the finessing, which was nice.
Okay. So we are at the end. I just wanted to open it up to, what are you working on? We kind of been talking about that throughout, but what's sort of a recurring issue that you always have when you do your listings, or when you're writing anything? It doesn't have to be a listing description, but like flyers or marketing stuff. Yeah. Just want to open it up.
So for flyers, for me, I don't want to do too much, but I always feel like I do too little, because with flyers, you can only give certain amount of pictures.
Yeah.
And certain amount of details. And so I feel like the flyers is more like, it's just not enough. Like, I like flyers for open houses and that's about it.
Yeah.
But I find clients want flyers because they see that as a normal thing. Like, oh,
Yeah.
where's a flyer for my house? So I've tried to start using like the word packet and then put a flyer in there.
Yeah.
But flyers are so like, okay, all it did was gain attention, but it didn't give you any information. Has anybody had anything to help on that? Like, is there a certain platform that I should be using that I'm not?
I print out the client MLS sheet and attach it to the flyer.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then you don't have to spend so much time doing all the little like details. They can get all the info, the real info from that. And then you can talk about, like, you can elaborate on what's actually interesting about the house. I would, if you have a lot to say and you can't fit it all in the flyer, maybe think about making social graphics. I think Connor did something recently that was really cool, where he had just like a little highlight of, here's the picture, and then sort of overlaid on top what the sellers loved about the house and that particular feature. So if you have like, this house has a great library, it has a pool, it has an awesome backyard, it has a horse stable, you know, if it has too many cool things to mention in one flyer, maybe take that as an opportunity that you can make a couple different separate posts about each of the features, and use that as sort of like a extended flyer, sort of. Yeah.
I'm trying to rewrite my bio, and I took Matthew's bio thing. It just sucks. I hate
Oh
doing
no. So what's the roadblock?
like all of it. I don't know. Like, I don't know where to start. So like, I know you're supposed to write for an audience, so I'm trying to like figure out who I'm writing to, but then I still don't know. Like, I don't know. The one he really likes Amber's, and hers is amazing, but like, I feel like I couldn't make mine look like that. We have totally different
Life experiences. Yeah.
Right.
Well,
I feel like for yours, it would be more of your passion for what you do.
Yeah.
Like, that's where I see, like, if you were to write your bio, you would just write 100% on the passion of who you are, what you do, and why you love your job.
Yeah.
And if somebody read that, they would say, oh, okay. And then they'll look at your rates and your stats and your everything, and they'll say, yeah, she does love her job, and it makes sense.
Yeah. Well,
That's good. Thanks.
I think also it's almost like you can't really look at anyone else's for inspiration because they don't have the same life as you. So it's like, I guess, hey, theirs sounds great. I'm glad they had a good time. But I think Sarah's on the money there. You need to, and I always say to talk about what was the moment that made you think about cutting into real estate, and what What do you do in your off time? What do you do in your free time? And when you start talking about things that you're actually passionate about, your personality will show through. So you won't have to try super hard because it'll be obvious that you care a lot about your family, or you care a lot about, volunteering or stuff like that, that's going to show sort of your flavor of a real estate agent without you having to like work and like, get water from a stone type thing. But yeah, if you want to send over, and anybody, if they want to work on their bio and then send it over to me, we can do that too. I know this is like everybody is redoing their bio right now because everyone's at home, but which is good, and you should do that. But
I've got a note on that.
Yeah.
So I was getting ready to completely redo mine because it's kind of been the same, just updated a little bit here and there for a couple of years.
Yeah.
And I've had 2 people recently, and I don't know if it's because they've got more time, they're reading them now, say that they picked me because of my bio. And my bio is really very basic, but I just talk like I talk. I mean, this is who I am, and you're either going to like me or you're not. But 2 different people have said that they picked me, one off a Zillow, one off a realtor, because of my bio. And I was just getting ready to deconstruct the whole thing and change it.
Well,
but,
I don't
love it, but it's written the way I talk. So
yeah, I don't think that you would be able to create anything that wouldn't sound like you. So I wouldn't worry about like, oh, they're not going to like me anymore. But I think I honestly think it's way more than that, of people that pick agents based on their bio. They just don't tell them. And especially now, there's no other way to meet anyone. They didn't see you out and then, hey, I met you.
And they've got the time.
They have the time.
They can do a deep dive.
Literally all I can do is deep dive on the internet right now. So yes, I completely agree that more people than you think are reading it. So even if you think like, yeah, it's fine, it's, it's worked, it's always worth looking at. And you might have done something recently that changed your thoughts on how you approach your business, or how you how you want to focus your time. And so maybe you wrote it when you first got started, and now you have a totally different way of doing things. It's just worth looking at. But it sounds like you're all on the right track, so good job. I guess a question to everyone that's working on there is, what are you most unsatisfied with about it currently? See if I can go back. Oh, I don't know if I can go back.
I did a lot of like the classes before with Matthew Rathburn and like in person. And it was, for me, I just wanted to paint a picture of who I was as a person, as well as my biggest hurdle was like updating my mission statement. Cause like my bio, I know people don't like to talk about themselves and it sucks, but I mean, the bio I feel is way more easier than your mission statement, because I've never been a business owner.
Yeah.
And so like my mission statement, it's a whole new ball game. And he was like, people want to see what you stand for. And so I ended up picking my hero in life and like saying, that's who I want to be in my business.
Yeah.
And that worked for me. And I know I'm going to have to revamp it in the next 2 to 3 years, because life is going to change. But my bio, I've changed twice since I've been in real estate. So that's why I haven't really focused on that, because I've only been in real estate going on 3 years.
Yeah.
But that's something that kind of reamed for me, that maybe will help somebody either with their mission statement and or their bio, is pick who your hero in life is, and think about that person and why you find them to be your hero, and then turn around and try to see what your characteristics are in that person, and then write about that.
Yeah. Or even just looking at what you already do. So, maybe you volunteer for a bunch of, I'm just using myself, maybe you volunteer for a bunch of animal stuff. Writing that out is great, but I think you can also take like, that means that I care about things, and I care about people, and I care about the community. You can extrapolate a lot from what you already do. So your hero could be yourself currently, you know what I mean? But you just have to look at it from like, how would an outsider that's never met me feel about me and the stuff that I do? And then you can kind of, it's a little easier to write about yourself that way when you don't think about it as yourself. But yeah.
Extrapolate. I'm going to use that word this week somehow.
Love that word.
I'm trying to figure out, like, so I'm trying to put myself, I guess, in the client's shoes. Like, what would make a client pick me? What's important to the client? And then I'm trying to work it that way.
Then you have to figure out the generation. Like for me, I love 55 plus people. And I also have my first time home buyers, and they are nothing like the same.
Right.
So how do you say that that one client is going to pick you? Like, are you only trying to write to certain people, which then you're hindering yourself?
Yes,
So
because
I would
you're not
take
gonna be able
away.
to like make everybody like it, right? So I thought I'm supposed to be looking at for a niche. So I was looking like for first time home buyers or people in their 30s is like the clients that I've probably liked the best that I've worked with.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's what, but I'm not getting anywhere. So
So it would be more like you explain the process thoroughly. You hold their hand through everything, that you're there from start to end, that you're going to be the person who's there, you know, whether it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon or I don't know if you're 4 o'clock in the morning person. I'm not. So
Yeah.
I don't know, I guess describe what you do and then try to paint a picture out of it.
Yeah, and I think also it's the same thing that Lori's running into. I don't know that you would have the ability to put something out there that doesn't really reflect you as a person. You know what I mean? So,
yeah.
you know, unless you literally like had a fugue state episode and like wrote something on, you know, high on cough drops or whatever, I don't think that you would put something out there that someone would hate and be like, Abby doesn't represent me. You know what I mean? So I think that sometimes people get to like, oh, I don't want to say it like this because then like the 55 plus won't like me. There's things about you that anyone can relate to. And that's why we, you know, we're all in this business because we like people and we get along and we're very friendly and outgoing. So I don't think that anyone here would be able to write anything that would be super off-putting. But I think it's Sarah's right. You need to let your particular flavor shine through, and then once you get rolling, I think on something that you actually care about, whether that is first-time homebuyers or something else. Once you get sort of talking about something that you actually are passionate about, it'll be way easier. I think once people get to that step, they're like, oh, this is fun. Bios are fun. It's not like, you know, as long as it's not writing something that you don't care about at all, like it's usually okay.
The other ones that I see a lot of it, not so much in our company, but the ones that sounds like you hired somebody to do it for you. It's like Lori Gomez is, and Lori does this, and I'm like,
and
no.
we all know it's you writing it.
Yeah, it's got to be. Even if it's not you writing it, it's got to pretend like you are at least.
Yeah, it's funny because my boyfriend, he's an engineer, and he swears that's how bios are supposed to be, spoken in a third party.
Well,
And I
they're
had a
long mounted.
conversation with him. He's like, no, that's how the bios are supposed to be. It's supposed to be Sarah Hurst does so-and-so, and that's who your bios. And I was like, no, I want to speak as me. And he feels the opposite. But I think it's just different wave brains, you know, like different strokes for different folks.
Well, it's different.
And that's what Poppy's saying. Like, no matter what, you're going to speak in your own language.
Yeah.
And so maybe an engineer is not going to say, oh, I should speak to Sarah because she's exactly like I'm reading her bio and that's what I think a bio should look like. They may not pick me, and that's fine because I don't know how I'm dating one, but I get along great with him, but I don't get along with engineers. And I know that. That's fine.
Yeah.
So it's like Poppy was saying, like, you're not going to not have your own voice. You're not going to become somebody different as long as you're not saying like, you know, Sarah Hurst, she sells mini houses and she likes people and horses and dogs. And I enjoy to take long walks on the beach and long dates with roses and petals. And I mean, you're not going to do that. So
I think it's also the expectation too. It's such a different industry, and real estate is such a relationship built industry that if it was another third party talking to you, that's such a weird angle to come at, like introducing yourself to someone. So that's why we always recommend doing first person, just because that's how we're going to interact anyway. I'm not bringing an interpreter to our showing, so you know, we're going to talk to each other in person. So sounding like yourself and not being too concerned with, you know, how I come off, or like touting myself as like or Poppy is a multi-million-dollar whatever, you know, it comes off weird, and I think everyone knows that deep down. Anyone else have any stuff they're working on? Thanks for sticking around, guys. Sorry it's been a long class. This
is probably one of my favorite classes so far.
It is kind of fun to schedule things because it's like, I don't think anyone's going to have any conflicts, but maybe I'll schedule it this time.
I like this time way better.
The morning ones?
Yes.
Me too.
I don't feel so rushed to get off of it because I've done what I need to do.
Yeah.
And so now I'm just kind of coaxing through the day, having a glass of wine and making dinner with my friends.
Yeah, dude.
I'll
Have
pour
a
you
good day, guys.
glass,
Thank you.
Poppy. I'll pour
Okay.
you a glass.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks for everything.
Yeah.
Bye, guys.
Thanks for coming.
See ya.
Thank you.